Hey, hey, hey. Hey, family. Hey, hey, hey. How are you guys? It's been forever since I got on here. Thank you, thank you. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I miss you guys. It's been a while since I've been on here. I won't be before you long. Hair. Yeah. Thank you. Hello, just meeting you. Hi, hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, so silly. Thank you. Forever. I know. Like the haircut. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My stylist bullied me into trying something different. So, that's my friend. He's so silly. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, thank you guys for tuning in. I promise I won't be before you long. Okay, for the flip. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for the birthday wishes. You look beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. You guys are great. Okay, thank you for the hearts. Alrighty, so really quick, for those of you who are not aware or who don't follow me on Facebook or any other social media, I launched my mental health blog today called Mindfully You, and I just wanted to jump on Periscope to do a brief discussion about my journey and what motivated me to launch the blog. So I'll give a bit of my story. I promise I'll condense it. It'll be very brief. Some of you guys have had a long day, just now getting off of work, and I've had a long day as well. So I promise you I will not be before you long. But if you can share on your network, share with your followers, I would greatly appreciate it. For those who will be tuning in later, welcome to the replay. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all of you guys' support, well wishes, birthday wishes. You guys are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing on your networks. Go on, blog. Thank you for the hearts. I love you guys so much. I appreciate all of the support. Alrighty, so thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the invites. You guys are amazing. All right, so really quickly, my name is Vicky, and I recently decided, well, today, to launch my mental health blog, Mindfully You. And the journey or the story behind the launch of this blog is quite long and interesting. But as I stated before, I won't keep you long. I'll condense it. So I'll give a bit of backdrop about me, my childhood upbringing, and then I'll talk about other hiccups that I faced along the way that helped kind of guide me into this. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Thank you guys for the hearts. I really appreciate it. Alrighty. So really quickly. Me as a child, I was very unhappy. I was different. I couldn't find myself relating to other kids. I was very unique. Strange is a better word. Hey, Vicky, love you. Hey, who's that? Hey, love you too. I was very strange and isolated. I can use that term. I kind of stayed to myself. I didn't really like to engage people. I was just very strange, and I thought that it was normal. I just thought that it was a part of who I was. But I later found out, once becoming adult and coming into new measures of healing and restoration, that those emotions and those behaviors came from a wounded place. So as I stated, as a child, I was very unhappy, stayed to myself, but it was masked as me being different. So it wasn't perceived right away that there was an issue with me, because it was just, hey, she's smart kids are weird, they kind of like to stay to themselves, etc. So I would say probably about the age of 12 is when I really started to realize that I was dysfunctional, to be completely transparent. Look at the hi brother, he's so silly. So yeah, at the age of 12, I realized that I wasn't normal, and that what I perceived to be normal was actually dysfunctional. So I would find myself going up and down in my emotions, mentally being unstable. I was depressed, and that was very uncommon for a child, because we often think that children don't have the right to be depressed. Your life is kind of set up for you. You kind of have everything handed to you. You don't pay any bills. You don't have any real responsibilities other than to be a child. But I was very unhappy with my home life, with my parental dynamic. I felt like I didn't receive the type of attention that I wanted, and I was just very, 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 very unhappy. So, and then I was also taught at a young age to not be super emotional. So I found issues with being vulnerable. I found issues with being transparent. So what happened was I would mask how I feel. I would bottle it up, and I began to develop the pattern of I will be able to tell you what I thought before I was able to tell you how I felt, which is very dysfunctional. So to this day, I still have to have people to push me out of thinking so much and to be more in tune with how it is that I feel. Thank you so much. Thank you. Love you, Kimmy. You're great. So yeah, at around the age of 12, I started to pay more attention to my emotions, and I noticed that I was always unhappy. I noticed that nothing could ever truly bring me joy, and I was just extremely different. But it was also around that age, hey Ricky, it was also around that age that I realized that I couldn't find my grounding, if that makes sense. I oftentimes felt scattered, I felt out of place, and I could never grow to terms of who I was and how I was made. So I found myself depressed. I found myself emotionally eating, angry all the time. I resorted to fighting. I was just a very bitter person. So into my teenage years, it shortly developed from depression to anxiety. And then by the age of 14, 15, I developed into having full-blown panic and anxiety attacks. It's where I would experience shortness of breath, dizziness, nausea, ignore my further pettiness. Go for it. I kind of found myself nauseous, dizzy, kind of all over the place, and I noticed that it wasn't normal, but I kind of would try to find ways to cope or to not really allow anybody to know what was going on with me because I was ashamed, to be quite transparent, and I thought that it was normal. I thought that in moments of being unhappy that we all kind of had to go through the up and down and the ping pongs of our emotions. So I would have really high highs and low lows, and then it also didn't help at the fact that I used to see a lot when I was a child. I used to dream, and I used to make the mistake of prematurely releasing what I dreamed and saw. I often mistaked it for my reality. So I would have dreams like our house was getting broken into, all type of crazy stuff, and I would release it out of fear and panic. And at the time, it was like, oh, you're crazy. Like, this is not, gonna happen. Like, you dreamed it. It's not real. But then slowly but surely, those things would start to manifest. So I thought that a lot of turmoil and a lot of things kind of going downhill was my fault. So again, just kind of the guilt of that ate away at me, and my panic and my anxiety attacks worsened. So I remember one day being in high school in my, I think it was either physics or my chemistry course. And this day was significant for me because this was at an all-time low for me. I remember receiving an assignment from my teacher, and me and my teacher weren't on the best of terms. And I remember him making my experience in his course very difficult. So I felt overwhelmed. I felt burdened. I knew that I would achieve well academically, but it was something about his course particularly that just kind of didn't really, we just never clicked. We just never saw eye to eye. So I believe still to this day that it was his mission to make it difficult for me. So I remember him kind of giving assignments, and I was always very quick and on my feet when it came to academics. So I would knock the assignments out, and it just always kind of seemed like he would come at me with, more to accomplish. So I got to the point to where I found myself sitting at my desk, and it seemed like the room began to spin. I became dizzy. I became, nauseous. And then so I was gripped by panic. I was gripped by anxiety. Thank you so much. And I was also gripped by shame at the moment. So I found myself rushing out of the classroom, and I was in the bathroom stall. And I remember balling up in fetal position, and I just began to weep uncontrollably. And then it became very difficult for me to breathe. So I was panicking because I didn't know who was in the bathroom, who was in the next stall, who would see me, who would hear me. In high school, I was kind of known as the most likely to succeed girl. So everybody kind of thought I was perfect. I had it together. I didn't have any issues. And so I kind of masked how I felt to keep that persona. So I found that it was very, difficult to show who I really was, because I believe that I was painted to present a certain depiction. So I kind of didn't go against it. So anytime I would find myself failing, or I would find myself having moments of weakness, I thought that it wasn't normal for me to be able to display that. I gave grace and I gave leeway for everyone else to give that off, but not myself. I kind of held myself to a higher standard, which I later found out in life was unfair. So I had this encounter in the bathroom. I'm balled up. I'm crying. I'm like gasping for air. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I remember having the thought of, am I going to die here? And at that point, that is when I really saw the legs of fear take off running in my life. I remember fearing for my life in a bathroom stall. I wasn't in any real danger. I wasn't in any physical harm per se, but it was all mental. So I remember kind of freaking out in my mind, kind of going to these places of, this is it for you. You'll never, ever really be able to be happy. You'll never experience peace. You'll never experience joy. And then at the time, I didn't know how to fight it. So I just kind of, wept. And a part of me, which I later found out, came into agreement with it, which later on allowed it to grow and become more fierce. So I would have those moments, and then I would get up, pull myself together, and go back to class as if nothing happened. And I would have people in my life who were, who desired to be involved, who would, try to pry to get me to open up to talk to them, but out of pride, which I can now admit that it was pride that kept me bound to the place of not wanting to be transparent with where I was. So I wouldn't allow people in. I wouldn't tell them what was going on with me. People would ask, how are you? And I would, I'm good. I would throw on a smile. I would kind of, turn into my jokester self and just kind of deflect and not really allow people to know what was going on internally. So that kind of went on for years. Randomly, it would happen at school. I remember being at home, just kind of, having a thought of, I have so much to do. And then that kind of triggering an episode. Just every little moment of panic and worry resulted in me being balled up in the corner, feeling like I'm losing my mind, feeling like, I'm just spiraling out of control. And I often tell people that a part of what really drove me to do this, a part of my personal experience is I feel like mental health issues are very common. And I believe that, as the same with me and my story, that there is shame attached to it. And people aren't comfortable enough to open up and bear what it is that they face mentally. People often try to mask it and make it seem like it's not there, especially within the church. I cannot tell you of how many broken believers, including myself, that I have come across, and it's just out of pride, out of shame, out of guilt. We just don't want to open up to let people know our wars and to know what we battle and what we face consistently. And so I didn't want to be viewed as one who had a plague, who was inordinate, all type of crazy stuff. So I was one of those people to where I would suffer in silence, and I would not allow people the luxury to be able to walk and to heal me. I kind of locked people out, and I kind of developed the mentality of I'll be able to heal on my own, and I just kind of masked and just often became complacent in where I was. And I felt like it was normal, and that was that. So over the years, it got worse, and I soon realized that it was kind of getting out of hand, but I didn't know how to reach out for help. I remember having a conversation with a family member, and when I talked to them and I explained to them what was going on, they immediately told me that they thought that I was crazy. So they weren't able to be empathetic or sympathetic with what it is that I was going through. So it was very difficult at that moment for me, because when I took a risk and I tried to be vulnerable, I felt like I was immediately judged for it. So then that pushed me to a place of being guarded, and it made all type of thoughts trigger of, this is why I don't, open up to people. This is why I hate vulnerability. This is why I hate, transparency, because it'll push you to a place to where people can judge you and people will turn on you. So I remember feeling super small. I would love to do, you should come on my radio show. I would love to do an interview on you. Oh, wow. I've been there before. Yeah. So I would, feel extremely small, and so it kind of pushed me to that place of how I felt as a young girl, as emotions are pointless. There's no point of feeling, there's no point of being transparent, because it's going to be held against you. You will forever be looked upon as the girl who's crazy, as the girl who's always sad, as the girl who's miserable. It's in my coat pocket. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. So yeah, I remember trying to have a conversation to reach out for help, and it didn't resort in anything. So I remember one day having a conversation with my mom. I just randomly walked downstairs. I think I was going in the kitchen for something, and she looked at me and she said, "Do you consider yourself an unhappy person?" I was 15 years old at the time, and I remember thinking, like, this is a random question, like, for you to, ask out the blue, just randomly. Do you consider yourself an unhappy person? And initially, I was I was dishonest. I was like, no, I feel like I'm good. I feel like I'm happy. I have moments where I'm not happy. I have moments where, it kind of goes up and down, but I don't feel like anything is wrong with it. And she said, do you consider yourself to be depressed? And I froze, and I was like, that's kind of strong. Like, I don't know if I would label myself as that. So there was still a part of me that was in denial. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have it in me to come into grips with everything that was going on with me. So I'm sorry, guys. I have to grab some money out of my pocket really quick. Sorry about that. Okay, you could just do it like that. No, it's okay. Sorry, guys, my food just came, so I had to pay for it. Forgive me. But I remember there being a part of denial in me, not wanting to accept the fact that something's wrong. Like, it's like a part of me knew it, but I didn't want to acknowledge it, and it was the most tormenting thing I had ever experienced in my life. It's like knowing you have a problem, knowing you have an issue, but something kind of resisting you from the place of getting help. So I remember my mom, us having that conversation, and it was an ear marker for me. So I began to, research like how to get help from sadness, how to get help from not, obtaining any peace. And it was all type of quick fixtures that didn't really last at all. And then it was also around that time to where I transitioned households. So I moved in with my mother permanently. And my mother has been saved all of my life. She has never forced God or Jesus on us in any capacity. Her perspective was that if you're going to have a relationship with the Lord, then it'll be your own personal relationship. I don't want it to be something that I forced upon you, which I love that method and I appreciate to this day. So initially moving in with her, she suggested that, I begin to attend church. Now, with that, my train of thought, I'm not churched. I knew of God through her, but I viewed God from the lens of, you're like my father. And because there was a bit of hurt and a bit of bitterness there, I allowed that to shape my perspective of God. So I made vows, stated that I didn't want anything to do with God. I didn't believe in the whole, prayer and aligning and submitting yourself to God. I just kind of felt like it was all a myth. I didn't find any authenticity in it at the moment. So moving in with her, she recommended that me and my younger sister attend services with her. And at the time, she attended her service, I think began at like 8:30 or 9. And for me to not be church, I was just like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I am not getting up on Sunday morning at 8:30, 9 o'clock. That is entirely too much. I am not doing that under any way, shape, form, or fashion. But my sisters, my two older sisters, attended All Nations Worship Assembly. Well, at the time, it was International Church of Fire. So they attended there, and their church service was, I think, anywhere between like 11:30 and 12. So my mother gave the option or the recommendation of either attending her church or attending their church. And I'm like, hey, it's a get out of jail free card. I'm definitely going to go to the service that's later on in the afternoon. So I remember going, and my initial thought was like, these people are weird. Like, I came in and praise was intense. They were dancing, they were singing, they were shouting, weeping. And I remember with my younger sister sitting in the back of the church laughing, like kind of pointing people out to laugh at, to joke at, to make fun of. And it was all just a big joke for me. Like, I didn't take it seriously. It's just like, man, these people just, are caught up in their emotions, and, they don't really, this is just all for show. And it was the same mentality that I had with my mother. When I would hear my mother pray in the other room, me and my sister would lay in the bed in the room next to her, and we would mock and we would laugh and we would make fun of her. And it came to the point to where we would, we were able to time perfectly when it was her time for prayer, and we would, kind of get our stuff together, get situated, and we would wait in the other room and we would laugh. So the same laughing and joking that we did with her, I did at church, and I did not take it seriously at all. So I was going, didn't really care to connect, didn't really care to involve myself. I'm just like, hey, I'm just here because, out of respect for my mother, she recommended that I go, and, so, hey, why not? I'm here. But, of course, that story didn't stay that way for long. I remember going one week, and I remember my apostle calling me out, and he calls me to the front of the church, and I'm just like, this is, weird. Like, I've never been called out. I've never been, called to stand in front of people. So I'm having all type of thoughts in front of, all type of thoughts flooding through my mind. Like, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. I'm not going up there. All type of, stubborn, rebellious thought, the whole nine. I remember getting up there, and I remember that he began to prophesy about my relationship dynamic with my father. And initially, to be very transparent, I was spooked. I was like, is this man some type of wizard? Like, what type of, crazy stuff is this? Like, how does he know this? And then my mind went to, well, my sisters go here, so maybe they told him. And then I was frustrated with them because I don't know this man like this for you guys to be telling him my business. So I was emotionally all over the place. But he was able to read into my soul. He was able to make known where my heart posture was regarding my father. But what really took the cake was when he quoted exact phrases that I used to describe my father. So in those seasons of being angry and in being bitter, I would say things like, I hate him, like he's never really there for me, like I feel abandoned, I feel left, like all type of crazy stuff I would kind of say. And so when he stood in front of me, he said, I hear you saying things like, and in my head I'm like, there is no way this man knows what I said. Like, absolutely not. But he began to shoot off verbatim the exact phrases that I used, and I was spooked. Like, if I could have passed out that day, I would have. But the part of me that was stubborn and trying to give off this tough edge was like, no, I'm gonna stand to see, like, if he, actually gonna get it, if he's gonna get it right, if he's gonna know what I said. And when he did, I was outdone. But so then that kind of led me to a place where I was intrigued. So I was like, hey, like this is kind of interesting. Like, I don't see myself getting too involved, but hey, I guess I'll keep coming. Like, hey, why not? I don't have anything else to do. So, I don't have anything else to lose, so why not? So I continued to come. And then I had an encounter with another woman who attended the church, and her name was Prophetess Kimberly Allen. And I remember meeting her thinking, to be very transparent, and this is not how I feel now, this was the broken, guarded, angry Vicky. The Vicky you see before is more whole and more resolved. But I remember meeting her. She was very evasive. She's very loving, huggy, touchy. And I remember thinking, this lady has no boundaries. Like, I don't know her. And it's like, she's holding my hand. She's hugging me. She's telling me that she loves me. She's telling me that, that who I appear to be or what I give off is not who I really am. I'm soft as a teddy bear. She made me feel very uncomfortable. For a very long time, I did not like engaging her. I would just kind of like to say hi and then kind of keep it pushing. But she was one of those people who would be in your face. There was no avoiding her. There was no any of that. So eventually, and she was very persistent. Like, she did not give up. Like, she knew I was uncomfortable. She did not care. She, was able to see and peer into my issues and did not care. She presented herself as a form of help. But for a long time, I allowed pride and stubbornness and being guarded in fear to keep me from that. So I'm like, hey, I didn't really come here for that. Like, I came because my mother wanted me to come. I kind of got my life told in front of the whole church. It's cool, but I'm not really for the let me be a part of your world or be invested in your life type of scenario. That was not my cup of tea at all. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really about that. But it was at the time that I joined All Nations that the Lord really began to deal with me. He began to prick at my heart. He began to do things to get my attention. But again, pride and stubbornness kept me from it. And I was just like, nah, that's a coincidence. Like, God wouldn't talk to me through that. Nah. Like, there's Kimmy. Oh, I love you, Kimmy. I was like, no, God wouldn't like talk to me through that. Absolutely not. Like, I'm starting to tweak again. So whenever weird things would happen, I would call it me tweaking. I'm like, I'm tweaking. Like, this is not real life. Like, no. And then I noticed that it became to become more aggressive. And the more aggressive it became, the more that I began to run away from it. So I'm like, okay, this is too much. I'm just going to stop going to this church. Like, something about being in this place has activated something. Like, something is more aggressive with trying to get me. I don't know what it is. I don't have verbiage for it. So I'm just kind of going to bow out. So it was at the age of 16 where I was at home. Normal, regular day. I was at home alone, and I remember I was watching TV, and I had the thought, I don't even remember like what exactly it was that I was doing, but I got up to go do something, and whatever it was brought a form of stress to me. So I began to feel overwhelmed, and I began to exhibit all of those same symptoms with the whole anxiety and panic attacks. But this time it was aggressive to the point to where it restricted movement. So I wasn't able to move at the moment. So where I was, I kind of locked up and dropped, and I began to very clearly, like I'm not crazy or anything, because now I have an understanding of demons and spirits. But I began to hear voices counsel me, saying that you're gonna die here, that this is the end for you, you're never gonna be able to live beyond this, you know, the hurts that you've experienced, like the pain, you know. I kind of lived in the whole woe is me mentality for years, and I just felt like I didn't deserve anything good. I felt like anytime I would get to a place to where things are going good in life, that things would kind of flip and they would go worse. So I was programmed to accept defeat, and those voices in that moment strengthened that counsel. And it was just like, you know, hey, you're gonna die here, like this is your life. There's no point of fighting, there's no point of seeking out help. This is, you know, how you were born to live. Like, this is your reality, this is, you know, where you are. And I remember beginning to cry, and I remember opening my mouth to call out for help, but it was as if something had coiled itself around my neck, and I wasn't able to breathe, and I wasn't able to talk. So I remember feeling like I was being suffocated. So I'm weeping uncontrollably. I'm not able to breathe. So I'm trying to stop myself from weeping, but I couldn't. So I felt it literally felt as if something came and completely covered my mouth, and I wasn't able to breathe. I wasn't able to talk. And I remember just, you know, laying there holding my chest, like grasping for air. And it was very terrible. And I tell people all the time, I don't think that it's common, or that people have the understanding of what it feels like to feel like your mind, like literally your sanity is leaving you, to feel like, you know, you don't have any sort of say over your mind, your thoughts. So it was a sense of defeat that came over me. And although I wanted to try to fight it, at the moment I didn't have the energy. I felt like whatever the force was stronger than me. So I just kind of laid there and temporarily gave into defeat. But it was also in that moment to where I heard the Lord speak to me for the very first time, and I knew it was the Lord because when I heard the voice speak, it was different from all of the other voices that I heard. And when I heard the voice speak, it was a peace that came with it. And I remember hearing the voice, and I remember once feeling like my body was under arrest and I was being held captive. I remember feeling light, and I remember feeling free. And I'll never forget what the Lord said in that moment. The Lord says that He told me, He said, you've been running long enough. And if you make the decision this day to no longer run and to choose me, you'll be secure forever. And hearing that, I don't know, something in me innately responded. And I just began to weep. Now, I had wept before with the whole anxiety and panic and stress thing, but this weep was a weep that cleansed me. And I remember laying there feeling life enter back into my life. So as I was weeping, I came into agreement with it. I said, you know, yes, God, I'll, you know, give you my life, and all, you know, just all of that. Like I began to commit and surrender my life to the Lord. So it was 16 that I got saved. And initially everything was good. Like things are kind of going uphill, and I feel like God began to really teach me the dynamic of Him as a father, and He showered me with love. He showed me that it's in Him that I have protection, that it's in Him that I have security. So all of this time, I was looking for protection and security in another man, and I was looking for it. And then when I felt as though it was rejected through another man, and I was looking for it within me, and then when I felt like I didn't have it in me to give, I just kind of gave up on it altogether. I lost all form of hope. I had no hope for the future, no faith for the future. But it was at the moment that when God was able to fully get my attention and to allow me to understand that in me, that in Him, I had a future in Him, and that there was hope for my future, and that my future wasn't a mystery to Him, but that if I align myself with His will, that He would give me everything that I needed. So at that point, I'm like, I am all in. Like, I've lived the other side of this. I've been full of anger. I've been full of bitterness. I've been unforgiving. I've been callous. I've been emotionally bound. I was just like, I am over this. I have nothing else to lose at this point. I finally heard the voice of a father. It affirmed me. It helped me confront fears. It gave me the courage and the strength needed to get up from this place of defeat. So at that point, I was 16, and I began to grow more involved and more active in my relationship with the Lord. I went back to church. Well, I was still going there, but it was kind of random. It wasn't really as aggressive. But I began to really grow in my relationship with the Lord. I began to get more involved in church, and I began to allow the Lord to deal with me and to heal me. And I just felt invincible. I felt like, hey, I'm living on top of the world. Like, this is what I've been waiting all of my life for. Like, God is good. God is faithful. Like, things are going to be perfect. I'm not going to have any more trials and tribulations. Like, I am good to go. So then I would grow discouraged in moments to where I would still experience sadness, or I would still experience moments of pain when relationally things would begin to go wrong with different friends, and just all sorts of traumas and pains will begin to resurface. And I was confused because I was like, God, I gave you my life. That means that you're supposed to take all of this away. And God had to help me understand that being in a relationship with him, that it is a partnership, that it's not enough for me to just say, okay, well, God, I'll give in to you. You have to do it all. But God began to teach me my role within the relationship, and how, yes, there was a measure of me that surrendered and that laid my life down to him, but I was still guarding and protected certain things. There were different areas that I did not fully allow him into. And because he wasn't allowed in those areas, then I wasn't able to receive the healing and the breakthrough that I needed. So I'm like, okay, this is deep. Like, my head was spinning at this point. I was like, I've never had an understanding of working in partnership with anyone. I've always carried the weight of responsibility. I've always had to look out for myself. I've never had anyone looking out for me. So all of the issues and all of the baggage that I encountered with people, I began to allow that to spill over in my relationship with the Lord. And it was a season to where I just felt like, man, God, is there anything that you like about me? Like, I feel like regardless of what I do, I'm always going through this, I'm always going through that. I'm just like, I have no understanding as to, what it is that you want from me. And God said, I want you. I want all of you. No restrictions, no limitations, no guardedness. Allow me in. I know that you've tried vulnerability before, but your hope was in man, and that's where the disappointment came from. But be vulnerable with me first. Trust me first. So I'm like, okay. I was very transparent. God, this is new. I don't really know how to do it. I'm scared to do it. I was very transparent with God, and God met me where I was, and God began to disciple me, and God began to help build me, to give me the courage and the strength needed to enter into a place of restoration and wholeness. So here we are, fast forwarding through high school. At this point, I gave my life to the Lord. I'm starting to hey, bless you. Hey, God bless you. I finished high school, and I head over into college, and I believe that I have a clear understanding on where my life is headed, what God is doing, who it is that I'm supposed to be. So I'm heading to college, and I'm going to school to study secondary education. And I have an internship, and I'm in the internship, and I teach grades 9 through 12. And I get there, and it's not what I imagined, and I'm just like, okay, God, like, this is not what I thought that this would be. I know that I have a gift to teach. I know that this is a part of me that loves to counsel and to instruct. So I need, I kind of need a more of an understanding on why this isn't working for me. So I'm like, okay, maybe secondary just isn't it. Let's, go over and let's try elementary education. And for a long time, I found satisfaction in it. I loved working with kids. I loved teaching them. I loved being hands-on with them. It brought me joy up until a certain point. Then I found myself again in a place of being unhappy. And I'm like, God, why does this keep happening? I feel like I hit moments of momentum. I feel like I'm focused, yielded. Why does this keep happening to me? And the Lord reminded me of occurrences that happened in my childhood. God said, remember, you always had a passion and a burden to counsel, and you were always in tune with the thought processes of many. Whenever people will find themselves in certain scenarios, instead of being focused on the outcome, I was more so focused on the process. What led you to this point? What process was going on mentally? Like, what thoughts did you have that helped usher you to this end result? And it was very uncommon. I remember being a kid asking those type of questions to adults when I would, hear them talk about problems and all type of crazy stuff. So people would look at me like, you asked the weirdest questions, and I didn't understand why. But when I went to apply for college, and I stated that I wanted to do counseling, it was discouraged by an advisor of mine because it was stated that there weren't a lot of promising careers there. Financially, I wouldn't be as comfortable as I would if I found a more dominant or a more prominent career to where there was a higher demand. So it was kind of discouraged, and me kind of wanting to find my niche and make sure that I was able to live comfortably. I briefly negated the gift and the ability that God gave me. So I'm like, hey, I'll teach. In teaching, I can still counsel, I can still give wisdom, etc. I get to my final year of college. I had gone through 3 years undergrad, and I was a elementary education major. I get to my senior year. I'm excited. I'm like, this is the home stretch. God is faithful. Like, I finally found my niche. I get to my last year, and everything, when I say everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. My entire college career fell apart. Grants fell through, scholarships were lost. There was a testing process that I had to go through. I would say that I took that test probably over a good anywhere between like 10 times. And even within that process, I found myself drained. I found myself mentally and emotionally drained. I kind of found depression trying to find its way to creep its way back in, and I was discouraged and confused about that, because my thing was, God, I felt like I was, over it, not understanding that in deliverance there are levels. So an example of that, in me wrestling with abandonment at 3, that looks different than abandonment at the age of 12. So it's two completely different paradigms. So I thought, hey, if I hit this issue on the level of 3, then I'm good. It kind of stops there. But I later came into the understanding of, no, between the ages of 3 and 12, that thing grew. That thing gained a bit of a foothold. It gained a bit of strength. It gained a bit of momentum. So you have to be aggressive in hitting every level of it. So I had yet done that. I just kind of attacked it as like, hey, I know I wrestle with depression. Gotta deal with it, get it all out, take a couple calls and sneeze and like all of, whatever I need to do to make sure that it's gone. I just want it gone. But I was only committed to being delivered at a certain level. And it wasn't until this phase of life that I realized it. So I get to my last year. Everything starts to fall apart. I am completely confused. I'm distraught. I'm like, God, I'm not going to finish school. Maybe I should just quit here. Maybe college isn't for me. Maybe I should just everything that I knew to be sure. So even before college, with God kind of giving a bit of verbiage on the route that I was to take, I kind of pushed everything. I don't want to say God-centered, but I believe that my journey with schooling happened the way it did because at some point I allowed school to become an idol. And by that, I mean that I became so driven and so focused on obtaining a degree and finishing school that I lost sight of how God wanted my life to truly unfold. So God would talk to me about different gifts and different abilities that he's given me, and how I was called to serve in ministry, how I was called to be a leader. And I'm like, God, I believe you. This sounds dope. This is wonderful. I'm honored. I'm humbled. Thank you for the opportunity. But that'll come later on in life. I'll kind of, start to hit the whole, ministry, you dig, probably when I get like mid-30s. But right now, my 20s are for me to focus on getting my degrees. I'm going to go to school straight through. I'm gonna do what I need to do, and then I'm gonna come out, have all of my degrees, and then I'll be qualified to serve in ministry. So it was this false perception of I had to be at a certain qualifying place to be able to serve. So everything was on the back burner. Serving in ministry, marriage, children, all of that. It's just like, yeah, that's gonna happen later on in life. Probably like mid-30s, like 40s before all of that happened. But school is what's popping. School is what's here and now. And God had to reveal. So later on, when I began to explore why that was, I was just like, well, why was school so important? Did I have a hunger and a joy for academics? Yes. But also I found safety in academics, because at the moment academics provided something that I could see. I could see me submitting myself to a program, going all the way through and finishing it. But me being involved in ministry, me potentially being a wife, me being a mother, those were things that I couldn't fully see or comprehend. So I excused myself from it. And I began to allow my affections and my devotions to work towards something that I could see. So I'm like, hey, school is it. Like, I'm almost done, like God, we have understanding. We good. You're not gonna mind that I want to, focus on school. I'm at the finish line. Like, we good. I thought it was all fun and games until I got to the end. And I'm just like, why was I able to get to the end and not finish? Like, what is going on? And I felt like that it was through that divine interruption that God asked me, am I able to have your attention now? And I remember feeling not terrible in terms of like condemned, but I felt convicted, because all of that time I'm like, well, God, I've been serving you. Like, I've been, focused on you. I've, made you the head of my life. I've allowed you to heal me. I've allowed you to, so I thought that I've done all of these things right, but yet and still I had yet to reach an understanding that there was a level of me that God was after that I was not willing to give. And I hid that behind the accomplishments of my academics, because that's where I pulled esteem from. Whenever I wanted my parents to voice that they were proud of me, they only did it through academics. So that became my mode of, I have to work for acceptance. I have to work for approval. And again, not realizing that transition over into my relationship with the Lord. I get to my last year and God is just like, yeah, all of this is done. I feel like and I'm just like, why does it feel like my world is ending? Like, I was also a very dramatic, theatrical person. I'm like, why does it feel like my world is crashing down? Why does it feel like I have no verbiage for who I am? And God plainly told me, it's because you've placed your hope in the wrong thing. You've placed your hope in being qualified on paper, that you didn't place your hope in me, and you did, and that's why you weren't able to ever find a place of stability. Yes, you were working and you were accomplishing things, and yes, you were doing work, but was it my will? And so I felt like in that season, God began to really embed in me understanding, not only understanding, but yielding to his will for my life. So I got, are we twins? That's hilarious. So I had to take a year off, and within that year, I allowed God to continue to work on me. I allowed God to fix my perspective, to heal me, to give me the full picture of who it is that he said that I would be. And it was in that time that God began to bring me back into awareness of the passion that he gave me as a child, which was the passion to counsel. And I shied away from it because I allowed the opinions of other people to move me. And I knew God had said it, but I wasn't confident in what God said. I was too distracted and I was too focused on the opinions of other people. So it was at the point that I was literally finishing up, getting ready to make the biggest mistake of my life. God began to show me different things that would happen within CPS. So the teachers going on strike and all the other, like, I remember God specifically giving me details like, hey, within this arena, this is going to come, this is going to come. And so with being able to have that insight, I began to develop a peace for my season. A lot of people around me were confused. It's like, hey, you finished 3 years, you're at your last year. What are you doing? Keep going, keep taking those tests, keep trying to push to get back in that program. And I remember finally getting to a place of being like, I trust God. And if God allowed this interruption to remove me from the path that I thought that I was to take, I'm at peace with it. I remember having conversations of like, I'm not moved. Whenever God wants me to finish my last year, I'll finish my last year. I'm not caught up with deadlines. I'm not caught up with timelines. And that was shocking for some people because, as I stated before, because I was giving the label of being most likely to succeed. I was valedictorian of my 8th grade class, of my high school class. Everybody knew that I was going to graduate from university on time and to go off to do big things. So to be at a standstill and to see everyone else who I was in school with, they graduated on time and they finished and obtained what they saw after, and to be in a place to where it's just like, God, I feel like I failed. Like, I feel like I'm not able to, find where I'm going. Like, I have no clue. Like, I've submitted. I feel like I'm confused. I'm just extremely frustrated. But it was at the point to where I allowed myself to submit to a season of stillness and to allow the Lord to really download his will and his plan for my life. And I'm like, okay, I am unbothered. Despite how many questions people ask, despite the whole, you're not done yet? Oh, but we thought that you'd be finished by now. You're so smart. You're so this. I didn't get caught up in any of that. My mentality was, Father, whenever it's your will that I finished, then I'll finish. If it's for me to stay in this program, I'll stay in this program. And if it's for me to switch programs, then I'll switch programs. So it was at that point that I finally began to yield, that God began to talk to me and told me to change my program. Now, to be transparent, initially I was like, Vicky, you are off. Like, I'm like, I know I said it, and it's just like, God, I do mean it, but I didn't really mean it. So when God is like, okay, you said it. You said that you want to be obedient. You said that you want to follow me. Change your program. I was like, God, I devoted 3 years of my life to this thing. I am at the finish line. You want me to start over? And God was not moved. I just kept hearing, change your program, change your program, change your program. And I immediately went into a place of, man, what are people gonna think? Like, I invested all this time, all this money, all of these grants that I have that are geared towards me teaching. How am I going to switch? And God was unbothered. Change your program. Change your program. Anytime I would ask any question, change your program. God was very consistent. Change it. Change it. Change it. And so I finally got to a point where I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna obey. If you're telling me to change it, what are you telling me to change it to? And God said, what once brought you joy before you allowed yourself to be moved by the opinions of people? And I said, well, psychology. Well, counseling brought me joy. And God said, that's where you need to be. So I said, all right, well, I'm gonna go seek out and figure out what I need to do to make sure that I can be in my right position. So I met with my advisor, and even before meeting with my advisor, I was skeptical to tell a lot of people about what God had been doing within my heart, because I felt like even to me internally, there were still parts of me that was like, God, this is ludicrous. Like, I don't fully understand this. So how am I going to be able to understand it, explain it to people? And I received a prophetic word, and the word basically revealed that there was a left turn coming within my career, and that it had begun in seed form, and that when I lose the need to explain it, that God will open many doors for me, and that his plan will prevail strongly for my life, that there will be no gaps, and that there will be no, Black ministry is strong, to copy the glory, that there will be no gaps, and that there will be no difficulty or anything. So I met with my advisor, and she's like, how can I help you? And I was like, okay, so this is going to sound really crazy. So still feeling the need to explain my next step. So I was like, hey, I've been in education for the past 3 years. I took a year off to kind of, find me and to, get some things together. And now that I'm back, I want to continue to pursue my education. But this time I want to change my major. And when I told her that, she gave me this look of like, are you stupid, basically? So she was like, you want to change your major after 3 years? I was like, yes, after 3 years. I strongly believe that this is something that I was led to do. And she's like, oh, okay, so what were you thinking? And I was like, well, I really want to go within the field of psychology and counseling. And she's like, well, we have, 3 programs in particular that will allow the two to loop. So which program were you thinking of in particular? And I explained I didn't have any insight on the programs. I just knew where my desire was. And she was like, well, where does your desire lie? And I was like, well, I strongly am invested in human development. I am concerned with the well-being mentally of people, and I would kind of want to, study more into that. So she types it in, she pulls up the spreadsheet, and she's like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, we have a program where your degree will be in psychology, and you have a concentration in human development. And she's like, but that's not the best part. And I'm like, okay, so what's the best part? So she's like, not only did you describe our program to the T without having any prior knowledge, but all of your credits transfer over. So the 3 years that you've invested in education will not go to waste. So you'll be able to keep those 3 years, and you'll be able to finish out your last year, and you'll still be able to graduate within the 4-year spectrum. I had never in my life felt so many emotions. Like, when I tell you I could have fell across that lady's desk and wept, like I was so overcome with emotions. And I remember hearing God say, this is what happens when you obey. All things work together when you obey. Like, I just kept hearing God say that. So I'm like tripped out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. Like, I'm like, wow. So I submitted my necessary paperwork, and I began my process, and I submitted myself to the program. I did all of the tests and the necessary processes that I need to, and I actually finished my degree November 22nd of this year, November 22nd, 2016. I earned my bachelor's in psychology and human development. And I was so overcome with emotion, because I would have never, ever, ever, ever in a million years thought that the end result would be like this. When I sought out as an 18-year-old girl seeking to obtain a degree in secondary education, I thought, like, man, this is what I'm having my degree in. I just envisioned my life being extremely different. So never in a million years did I think that I would have that break. Did I think that my path would change courses? I was just completely overwhelmed. And within that span of the year, God began to really give me insight and really begin to develop passions as it pertains to the mental states of people. So God gave me the burden to create Mindfully You while I was finishing my last year of my undergraduate career. And initially, I was extremely skeptical. Again, I was like, you are off your rocker. Like, absolutely not. Like, how are you going to do this? All type of insecurities, all type of fear, all type of intimidation surfaced. And it was really, 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 really bad. But God was very intentional. God was like, hey, this is what I told you to do. I want you to get it done. And I was just like, God, I hear you, but how? God was just like, hey, follow me. I want you to get it done. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I would do little stuff here and there, and I would drag my feet. And God would send people literally all of this year. I've received one prophecy every month from January all the way up until October, where people were like, hey, God said that you're supposed to be writing. God said that you're supposed to be producing. There's a counseling grace on the inside of you. What are you doing with it? God was sending people back to back to push it. It's just like, hey, do it. And I'm like, okay, God, clearly you're not letting this go. I need to, be obedient, and I'll do it. So when I finally sat down and I decided, hey, I'm going to, stay focused. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be obedient. It seemed like everything kind of fell apart. Like my finances took a strong hit. Different concepts and different plans that I made, they were all falling through. And I was just like, God, I know that you gave me this. I know that this came from you. This is not anything that I would want to sit up and do personally. Like I don't see myself doing it because I just want to do it. I was like, this is you, so I don't understand why it's falling apart. And so I began to get discouraged, and I was just like, forget it, I'm not doing it anymore. I remember one night I went to bed, I think it was after like midnight, and I remember laying there, and I remember telling the Lord, I was like, God, I know you said that this is something that I'm supposed to do, but maybe I'm missing the timing. It seems like everything is falling through. I'm just kind of going to throw in the towel for now, and I'll revisit it later on in life. I wake up the next morning to an inbox, 5:45 a.m. I woke up, read the inbox, and the inbox was from a young woman who lived in another state. And the message read, hey, I'm not sure if you know me, but I've heard of you. I've seen you pray on Periscope, and I know that you're affiliated with All Nations. And she said, but the Lord gave me a dream about you. And so anytime anybody's like, I've been dreaming about you, I'm just like, okay, let's see what you finna say. So she's like, the Lord gave me a dream about you. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. And she's like, within the dream, I saw you writing. And she's like, I know it seems kind of basic. And she's like, I'm not sure where you are with that. But she's like, the Lord told me to affirm you that your time is now. And the Lord told me to affirm that what you write, that he wants you to release. And I heard the Lord saying that he's going to make a manual of you. So your journey and your story, everything that you've encountered wasn't in vain. But that God was going to use your story and use your testimony as a weapon. So I read that message, and I was like, man, outdone. Here I am weeping again. I'm like, okay, this is the last confirmation I need, God. Like, I am going to do it. I'm going to be committed. I am not going to stop. So I began to write. And I began to seek the Lord and ask what topics, what concepts he wanted me to flesh out and develop. And that's when God really began to continue to strengthen the vision that he gave me for Mindfully You. So, Mindfully You is a mental health blog that enhances wholeness, restoration, and stability for purpose and destiny. I feel like we live in a time and we live in a generation to where we're purpose and destiny driven, which is good, but I feel like a lot of people don't take the time to tend or to care for the areas that matter the most. And it's difficult for you to reach destiny or to pursue purpose if you're not whole. And mentally, we have all encountered obstacles in some fashion, shape, or form, but we kind of think that as life continues to go on, that we'll kind of develop more of a handle or develop more of a hang on it for ourselves. But I believe that God gave me the burden to write about different concepts that we face mentally, whether it's depression, anxiety, grief, trauma, loneliness, fantasy, pain, abuse, abandonment, rejection, comparison, jealousy. So God gave me all of these topics to write about, and God said, you're going to write about how all of these factors affect the mind. I said, okay, well, God, I'll do it. I'll write about how it affects the mind. And so I began to flesh out the concepts, and I began to write them out. And it led me to a place to where I have a site, and my site is now live. It's active. It is www.BeMindfullyYou.com. The link is in my bio. So in addition to my website, I have a Instagram page at MindfullyYou. I have a Facebook page. It's the same name. And I have a Twitter page at Mindfully_you. And all of those serve as reminders and encouragement of the necessity of mental care. I believe that God is concerned about the mental state of his people, and I believe that we don't have to pursue destiny and purpose broken, fragmented, and shattered. I believe that God wants us to be whole. God wants us to be fulfilled. I believe that God doesn't want to use us as a slave to where we serve him, but at the end of the day, we're still unfulfilled. We're still broken. We're still tormented. So I believe that in pursuit of purpose, that God wants us to be healed, and God wants us to be whole. So check out my site. Check out my social media pages. I have 5 blogs up currently, and I'm going to add new ones up weekly. I also, my friends are here, so they're being really silly. I also am going to get into periscoping more. So I'm going to start doing something called Mindful Mondays. So every Monday, I'm going to start periscoping about different topics. We're going to have, we're going to open up briefly with discussion. Then we're going to have Q&A. And then we're going to have prayer. So feel free to reach out. I also have an email address, BeMindfullyYou@gmail.com. You can submit any questions. You can submit any topics that you want me to cover via Periscope or via blog format. I am open to suggestions. I want this to be as interactive as possible. I'm a talker. I love talking, but I also want to get you guys' feedback. And I want you to be involved and active as well. So I'm excited about this journey of mental wholeness for you guys, and hopefully you guys check out my site and you are blessed by it. So that's it. Hopefully my journey blessed you guys. I'm excited. Please check my pages out. Like them, follow them, share them. I believe that you will be tremendously blessed, and I look forward to it's needed. Amen. God bless you. I am so excited to hear that. This is great. Oh, thank you so much. Awesome blessings. Oh, God bless you. Thank you. Amen. I thought you'd be doing mindfulness, but sounds great. Looking forward. Yes, thank you. Excellent. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. I'm excited about what's to come. I'm excited about what the Lord will do in all of you guys' life. So again, the link to my site is in my bio. And connected to my site is my social media. So I have Instagram, I have Twitter, and I also have Facebook. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for all of your prayer and support. For those who have been pushing me, encouraging me, for those who have given me rebukes, encouragements, those who have covered me in prayer, those who have given the word of the Lord over this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the sharing blessings. Oh, thank you so much. God bless you and your family as well. Alrighty, so I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully that wasn't too long. But I love you all, and I look forward to oh, God bless you. We're proud of you and happy for sure. Oh, thank you so much. Alrighty. I love you guys. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. Thank you for taking the time to follow my pages. I love you guys so much, and I'm excited about what's to come. Don't forget, I'm going to get into the habit of scoping on Mondays. They're going to be called Mindful Mondays, to where we're going to dig into different mental issues that may be roadblocks or hindrances to pursuing destiny and purpose. So I love you guys very much, and I'll talk to you soon.